Malcolm Turnbull, the point is of this stimulus spending, it was all about the economy. It was not about the education revolution. And if you ask a lot of tradies around the country, they'll say, thank God the government's churned out the money.
Well, I've spoken to a lot of tradies that are very unhappy about it because they're saying that local tradespeople are not getting the contracts, and that the smaller trades men and women who would have got the contracts had the spending been and the projects been designed by the local community and are missing out. And in fact, it is large contractors from outside local communities that are getting the money because it's being run by state government bureaucrats.
There's clearly a problem with some of the spending in the schools program. I think that's clearly demonstrated. The point is what to do now. Do you turn off the tap or risk withdrawing the stimulus too soon? Almost every economist says it's too soon to stop the stimulus spending. The opposition says stop spending.
Well, what we've said is that the government has got to slow it down, but it's up to them to manage their own program. I mean, we don't. Fran, this is what the government does.
But slow it down and risk bringing the economy to a grinding halt. I mean, look at the ANZ Bank CEO Mike Smith saying that if you turn off the tap, we've got to be careful we don't halt all the momentum we've created here.
Well, the banks will always talk their own book. The big banks have done unbelievably well out of this crisis. Unbelievably well. They now completely dominate the mortgage market. They are the four big banks in Australia, courtesy of the financial crisis and above all courtesy of the way the government mismanaged the deposit guarantee legislation by going for an unlimited deposit guarantee and then for $1 million cap instead of having a lower cap, which is what we advocated. What the government has done has really eliminated. Contributed to eliminating an enormous amount of competition in the financial market, and the big four banks are stronger than ever. They've never dominated the Australian financial services scene in the way they do today. So they've done very well. It's been a good war for the big four.
Okay, so you won't tell the government where to stop spending, but you say it should slow down the spending. You say
Frank, let me give you an example. You say, and you're quite right, that the government's focus was on getting work into for the building trades. That's right. And if you go right back to the Great Depression in the 30s, John Maynard Keynes gave the example of governments trying to stimulate economic activity of paying 1,000 men to dig 1,000 holes and then paying them to fill them in again. Absolutely futile endeavour, but it got people working. Now, the reality is that we should do better than that, and we should aim to do something productive. Now, right around rural Australia, there is no money, or virtually no money, being spent by the Rudd government on the great vision John Howard and I had when we were in government, which was to replumb rural Australia, to line all those leaking channels, to pipe water so that we didn't lose so much water to evaporation and seepage, and in other words, we could produce more food and fibre with less water. Now, if you're going to put a lot of money into infrastructure that could be done very instantly, that was essentially shovel ready, there are literally billions of dollars of irrigation projects that are ready to go, that the Rudd and for which the money was made available by the Howard government, which the Rudd government is refusing to do. Why? Because they want to build an assembly hall at every polling place. This is politics, Fran. They want to have a big sign. When you go to vote at the next election, you will be walking past a big sign that says, "Here we are," at the Rose Bay Public School, and there is a new building here, courtesy of Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard, and that's what you'll see as you go into the polling place. This is all about festooning polling places with Labor government propaganda. Otherwise, they'd be focused on infrastructure that had a real economic value.
It's 12 to 8 on Breakfast. Malcolm Turnbull is our guest. Just moving on quickly to a couple of points, Mr. Turnbull, before we run out of time. Parliament's back next week. You've had time to think about your front bench reshuffle. When will you announce the new lineup?
I will announce any changes to the front bench will be announced by me at a time of my choosing, as every leader of the opposition or every Prime Minister said. Well, you'll see. You'll see.
You obviously need to do something to get momentum going. The polls aren't great for you and the coalition still. Even your own side is giving you free character analysis. Your colleague, Dr. Brendan Nelson, recently said you suffer from a narcissistic personality disorder.
How many S's in Narcissus?
Do you suffer from a narcissistic...
Well, do you know how many S's there are in Narcissus?
I'm trying to do it quickly. 3, I think.
Yes, you're right. It's an interesting word. Look, I hope it made him feel better, but it didn't trouble me at all.
Okay, so you don't think it's out of line for your colleagues to give you this kind of free character assessment?
Look, you have to have broad shoulders in my line of work, and I'm untroubled.
New South Wales state Labor is clearly troubling federal Labor. Is it true that Liberal Party research indicates that federal Labor is going to get walloped in probably up to 5 seats in the next federal election, given the voter disenchantment with their state Labor?
Well, the state Labor government in New South Wales is a catastrophe. I mean, it's so bad, it's an embarrassment. This is tragically, and it's tragic, for you and me in particular, because we live here. This is a failed state. And voters are naturally, properly, very upset about it. Kevin Rudd tries to distance himself from the New South Wales Labor Party, but the Labor Party is a very well-organised machine. Kevin Rudd was made Prime Minister and is supported by the same right-wing faction of the New South Wales Labor Party that runs the government here in New South Wales. So the same, Mark Arbib being, one of the key figures in it. So the same group that are responsible for the catastrophe that is Labor government in New South Wales are the group that put Kevin Rudd into the leadership and that are his key support base. So if voters in New South Wales want to send a message to Labor, one way to do that is to vote Liberal at the Bradfield by-election and at any other federal election. The only way to get a message to Labor that they've got to clean up their act in New South Wales is to vote against them.
Malcolm Turnbull, thanks very much for joining us on Breakfast.
Thank you.